Good morning. My name's Jim Creamer, and you're listening to Mortgage Savvy Radio, the show that keeps you informed and helps you make better decisions when it comes to purchasing or financing your home. Thanks for listening today. Our special guest this week is Shaena Stabler. She is the multi-talented co-owner of StewNewsLaguna.com, a pioneering online hyper-local newspaper, and she's also a local singer. We'll hear more about what a hyper-local online newspaper is and does, and also learn a little bit more about Shaena's musical talents. Please stick around for that. We also have a beautiful feature property that has an open house today from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. We'll tell you about that later on in the show, but if you want to check it out now, you can go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/SwiftLoans, where you'll find pictures, website links, and contact information. Remember, we love listener questions to answer here on our show each week. You can post your questions on our Facebook page at facebook.com/SwiftLoans or send an email to radio@jimcreamer.com. We will answer every question, and if we use your question on the air next week, we'll send you something nice from one of our local businesses here in the Newport Mesa area. Each week, we talk about the Freddie Mac rate survey of lenders that they come out with each week on Thursday, and we use it as a comparative basis when we speak about the Swift loan rates later on in the segment. This week, the Freddie Mac survey says that the average 30-year fixed rate was 3.55%, down from 3.59% last week and 3.66% the week before that. The average 15-year fixed rate stayed about the same at 2.86%, also coming down off of the previous weeks. And for both loans, that's with 0.7% of a point in lender fees. That's almost 3/4 of a point in lender fees. We ended last week on a strong note, as I'd mentioned. Rates down on Friday generally means rates down on Monday, as was the case. The first few days of the week, though, were quiet on news, and rates took kind of a wait-and-see stance for the big news that came out on Thursday and Friday. Thursday started off a little bit shaky when ECB President Mario Draghi announced their bond buying plans to stimulate the Eurozone recovery. Here's the thing. Ahead of Thursday's announcement, there had been extremely detailed news leaks of the ECB's bond buying plans. So in retrospect, it seems that the markets already had the impact of his announcements factored in. The big news that made rates a little worse for the week was Thursday's ADP payrolls. The private sector employment increased by 201,000 from July to August compared to their expected 140,000 consensus. And jobless claims were lower than expected. But let's get back to the ECB real quick. Mid next week, the German Parliamentary Court will vote on the constitutionality of Germany's participation in the new Eurozone bailout mechanism. The level of involvement that Germany ultimately takes will have an impact on how successful Draghi's European stability mechanism has with the Eurozone recovery. Here's where and why rates get fun. By the time I rolled out of bed on Friday, the rates had made a complete turnaround improvement and then some, because non-farm payrolls were up only 96,000 versus the 125,000 consensus, with rates getting back to almost their all-time lows. Remember, rates are still really good. This week, Swift Loan Funding is on top of the rate rankings again with our 30-year fixed refinance at a 3.375 APR. This is a no-cost loan. It's a great rate. I was in Chase Bank earlier this week, and they had their 30-year fixed posted at 3.75%. Ours is 3.375. Our 15-year fixed is 2.75%. This is also the APR on this no-cost loan. You can go ahead and actually check for yourself on our company website at SwiftLoanFunding.com, where we have a live rate engine that ties directly to our wholesale lender rate sheets. It's called the Fast Quote. Just click on the Fast Quote tab at SwiftLoanFunding.com and enter your qualifications. The resulting rates are the latest live lender rates with all possible closing costs already factored in. I think we have time real quick to talk about vacation and traveling when you're in the middle of a refinance. With our hectic, busy lives, we all can't necessarily sit around and wait for a refinance or a purchase loan to close within the lock period. Sometimes we have business trips, for example, to contend with. So remember that if you're going to be traveling on or around the closing date for your loan, you need to let your loan officer, loan originator know that you're going to be gone. If you're going to be traveling within the United States, because of the mobile notaries that we use these days for closings, it's very easy for us to schedule closings basically wherever you're at in the country. However, if you find yourself outside of the country, it gets a little bit more difficult. We are able to arrange closings at U.S. embassies in other countries. We need a notary to be able to stamp your signature validity on some of those closing documents. The other alternative is to use a limited power of attorney. That gets a little bit more complicated. If you have any questions about that, please feel free. Just send me an email, radio@jimcreamer.com. I'm happy to kind of walk you through what the expectations are for signings when you're not in town. That's definitely something that we've been dealing with throughout this summer break. The other thing that I wanted to touch on was borrowers who have a high net worth. In fact, enough of a net worth liquid that they are able to pay for their mortgage, to pay off their mortgage several times over, yet they're having trouble qualifying for a conforming loan amount. This is something that we are seeing a lot of recently. Borrowers that have IRAs, for example, that take a distribution once a year for tax purposes. They take the required distribution, yet they're unable to qualify for the loan. Fannie Mae guidelines actually wants to see that you take that distribution on a monthly basis. So if you have at least 2 months of those IRA distributions under your belt, you're actually able to then qualify for a mortgage. The people that are taking the distributions once a year, none of the lenders are allowing or approving those loans. They want to see that you're taking it out monthly. So if you are having issues with that, we can help walk you through it. Just send me an email to radio@jimcreamer.com and I'll respond and help you structure your transaction so that you can qualify for that refinance or purchase. So our guest today is Shaena Stabler. She is the co-owner of the StuNewsLaguna.com. It's an online
newspaper. Hyperlocal online newspaper.
That word, hyperlocal, what does it mean?
Well, I mean, in our case, we're a hyperlocal Laguna Beach newspaper. So if it's happening in Laguna, we're covering it. So it's down to the community in this case. So specific to Laguna Beach.
So is it a big staff, small staff?
When I came on board, there were 2 paid staff members about a year and 10 months ago that I partnered with, my business partner. We're probably up to about 15, 20 paid. A lot of that's freelance work, but I maybe about 5 that I consider staff in terms of the pay and the salary. But a lot of community support and a lot of submissions from the community that are not paid, but come in, and we appreciate them. So it's sort of a community project, if you will.
So when you say hyperlocal, does that give you an advantage over other news publications?
Well, in Laguna Beach, there are a couple of print newspapers that, by definition, they're Laguna Beach newspapers. They're not covering news subjects outside of Laguna Beach. But being that, in the case of, say, the Coastline Pilot, which is a Laguna Beach newspaper, it's owned by the LA Times. So there's a corporate infrastructure there that, forces them to maybe cover some things outside of Laguna Beach that wouldn't make it into our newspaper.
But do you get the breaking news
as
a result?
Absolutely. So, the tips come in, sort of the rogue newspaper in town, and if it's a Laguna Beach story or something, anything happening in Laguna Beach or something that a Laguna Beach resident is experiencing outside of Laguna Beach, just has to have a connection to Laguna Beach in some way, shape, or form, which can mean a lot of different things.
And then those stories, do they make it outside of Laguna Beach?
Absolutely. We track all of our stats through Google Analytics, and Google Analytics will tell you anything you want.
Right.
From how many people are coming on from phones, mobile stats, countries that are visiting, and down to the number of visitors in a 30-minute time span. So we're read in 97 countries right now, and all 50 states, as well as Laguna Beach. But
Wow.
it's all Laguna Beach news. So the fact that people are, tapping in or piping into our newspaper is a sign that Laguna Beach is an international brand now, and anybody interested in Laguna is going to find us. We're going to come up, on the searches.
You're big in social media, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's how you promote the paper.
Free advertising
the
for
news.
us.
Yeah.
So we've built everything on a real grassroots model. So we don't spend any money on SEM or SEO right now, which is totally, not. It is totally not the norm for our model and our business. But we've built it up through word of mouth, through social media as well. Our Facebook and Twitter pages drive about 25% of our web traffic. So it's significant. And then, if we have a story, particularly compelling headline or police or crime story, it'll go viral through social media, which has happened recently on a couple of our stories, where we've been read in 97 countries in one day, or not over the course of a month.
Can you give me some examples of those stories?
Absolutely. So in the last couple of weeks, we've had a couple of good ones. One was an MMA fighter, and he was arrested by the Laguna Beach detectives in town, and we just piped that story out, and it was picked up by ESPN, Bleacher Report, Yahoo Sports, and so then their story is linked back to our site, which drove a lot of traffic.
Oh, that's great.
A ton of traffic. And then we had another one that was a little more graphic in nature, and it was another police story, and that one went super viral. I looked at our stats at noon, and I saw, we're having a great day, and I took a lunch break. I came back at 1, and there were 25,000 unique visitors in an hour. So I was like, okay, usually I can track it and I can figure it out, through deduction or going backwards. So I started finding all the different shares that had occurred on Facebook. Just people I don't know, just from Florida to Maine, and it just went out.
And those stories are still up there right now, right?
Absolutely.
So if they went to stewnewslaguna.com, they could see those?
Yep, we have an archives page, and so that'll keep those stories alive for as long as people are interested in them. And then today we had another story we hope will go viral on a DUI of a notable former Laguna resident, and so that might get picked up different places.
And that's on there right now too?
Yep, it's at stewnewslaguna.com. That's STU newslaguna.com.
So you've been with Stu News Laguna for how long?
It's been about a year and 10 months.
And have you brought the spin of the social media to the paper?
Yes, there was no Facebook or Twitter presence before I came on. That was one of the first things that I started, was get that page going and build it up, and it continues to grow and grow and grow. And like I said, it accounts for about 25% of our traffic, and it's a lot of new readers that will discover us through social media. And then, our ultimate goal is for them to go to the site, which they can with the links on the Facebook page. But we'd love for them to subscribe, and it's free to subscribe. But all that means is then they'll join our email database, and we'll send blasts we put out new papers Tuesdays and Fridays. And every Tuesday and Friday morning, we put out the blasts to everyone that subscribes. Come out about 5:50 a.m. with our top headlines for the day. So it'd be real simple, bare bones, like 4 or 5 headlines. Goal is for them to click on the links, the hyperlinks, take them to the website, and then there it is. And then all our advertisers are there.